everybody. We have got Bryony Gordon in our Wilde space today. Waving. Hi, Bryony. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure most of you do know that Bryony is, she's a journalist and she's an author. And we're very thrilled to have her with us today because we have been supporting her with her organization, charity, which is called, I was just going to call We're Mindful May, but Mental Health Mates, which is an incredible support system for anybody, if not everybody, who's struggling for mental health, which is everybody who's got a beating heart, frankly.
Yeah, and a brain. Yeah.
And a brain, exactly. So just, I mean, great that we've done this collaboration, and Mindful May, mindfulness, mental health clearly is important for everybody, and it just has become so much of an accepted thing, especially in this country where we're so stiff upper lip about things. But can you just tell everybody a little bit about what inspired you to set up Mental Health Mates?
So I set up Mental Health Mates 4 years ago. I was very unwell since I was 12, and I'm now nearly 40. I'll be 40 in a few weeks. I have suffered from obsessive compulsive disorder, and it took me until about 4 years ago to really start looking for ways to deal with it. And it, you know, and it snowballed. It sort of had this effect throughout my whole life. I developed alcoholism and addiction issues to try and deal with my OCD. And 4 years ago, I was like, I knew.
Can I just stop you there? When you say OCD, how did that manifest?
So when I was young, I had the kind of fear of germs, OCD, that people know about. I also had I have a type called Pure O, which people don't know so much about. And that's about intrusive thoughts. So the way I describe OCD is that it's your brain refusing to acknowledge what your eyes can see. So that the candle is off, that the oven is off, that the door is locked, that what you've just gone over in the road is a speed bump and not a child, right? And your brain goes, no, what if it's not? Go and check. Go and check. But so Pure O is that, but with thoughts. So we all have intrusive thoughts. We all have millions of thoughts a day. We are not our thoughts. Intrusive thoughts. So we've all had that thought of, someone's going to hand me their baby. What if I just threw the baby on the floor? Or, you know, you're on the tube. What if I just push that person in front of the tube? Most people know they're not going to act on it, and they just dismiss the thought as the randomness of our brain. Someone with Pure O will be just so distressed by the thought and the idea that they could possibly act on it, that they will go through a series of ruminations to check they are not the thoughts. So it's very common, but people don't talk about it because
I absolutely can understand what you mean by that completely. Yeah. I'm standing on the top of of the World Trade Center as it was. I remember thinking, what if I just jumped off? You know, what if I just did that?
Yeah, and that's thoughts we all have. We all have those thoughts, you know, good, bad, ugly, anything in between. My thoughts were, you know, quite a common thing is thinking, I thought I was a serial killing paedophile at the age of like 12. And that tormented me for the rest of my life, up until, you know, relatively recently. And I knew intellectually that it was a type of OCD, but I had never met anybody who had told me that they had it too, because guess what, you know, people talk about OCD and they're like, oh yeah, I've got that, you should see my kitchen, you should see my sock drawer. I'm like, it's always the sock drawer, like, do you know what I mean? Like, no, that's not the kind of OCD I have, and I can't talk about this in polite society because people will run away screaming, which adds to the problem of it, right? And I was like, I know there are people out there like me, but I've never met them. And if I don't meet them, I can get lost in my brain and think that I'm a bad person, that I am the thoughts. So one day I put something up on Twitter. It was February 2016. And I was like, what if I sort of saw people outside exercising together. They were playing football together, or there were the really mad people doing like military fitness together. And I was like, why is there nothing like this for people with mental health issues? Why, if we know that 1 in 4 people will experience a mental health issue each year, And we know that exercise and getting out of the house is something that's very helpful for it. Why is there nothing for us? Why are we locked away in our own heads? And, you know, I've always say that the thing that all mental illnesses have in common, from depression through to psychosis and beyond, is that they lie to you. They tell you you're a freak. They tell you that you're alone. They tell you that no one's going to understand what you're going through. And that is rubbish. It's bullshit. Sorry, swearing.
It's okay. It's called the Wilde space for a reason. You can say that.
So the moment that you punch a hole in that belief system, the moment that you start talking and people don't run away screaming and people go, oh yeah, I know that. I have a friend who's told me about that, or I've had that once before. You're not cured, but you're on the road to recovery. So I wanted to create a space where people with mental health issues could get together and sort of talk without fear of judgment. So I put on Twitter this thing. I'm like, on this day, it was Valentine's Day 2016, I will be at this spot in Hyde Park in London at 11 a.m. and if anyone wants to come and go on a walk with me, why don't we do it? And my husband was like, I think you've really lost the plot now. And he's like, what if a load of nutters turn up? And I was like, that's the point, right? And on the day, 20 people showed up. And that was the first Mental Health Mates walk. And so I started doing them more often and putting them more on Twitter and Facebook. And then people started getting in touch with me and being like, I'd like to set up my own Mental Health Mates where I live. And so now here we are, 4 years on. Amazing companies like yours are partnering with us. And we have walks all over the country and actually the world. And, you know, it's incredible. It's a thing that I have very little to do with it anymore. You know, it's about people creating their own communities and empowering themselves, because mental illness can be very disempowering, and it's about getting some sort of agency back over it. And, you know, you see people, they turn up on the walks and they're so scared because it's a scary thing to do. And you think if I don't go over to that person now and give them a hug, they're going to bolt. They're not going to stay. And then an hour later, once the walk is over, they're like a different, you know, they've flowered, they've blossomed, and they're going off for coffee with people. And, you know, that's been an incredibly powerful thing to witness. It's also been incredibly helpful for myself, because I've met other people who have that type of PRO, and they come up to me and they go, oh, I've got that. And I'm like, no, you're not a serial killing paedophile. Look at you, you're wearing a Topshop dress and you know, whatever. And then it goes, oh, that's the, you know, yeah. That's what I think when they meet me. And so yeah, it's amazing. And
I just think it's so fantastic that you've in a way normalized. I mean, the fact is, it's you, because I mean, the minute I met you for the first time last week, you've got this fantastic, exuberant personality where you say it with full aplomb. You really mean, and you really say what you mean. And I think to bring normality to something that is such a scary ass thing, which is deeply embedded in you since a very young age, as you said, whatever version of, excuse my French, it's my channel, fucked up, you know, versions of whatever the manifestation of OCD and amplifications of that, just for it to be kind of, that the minute you take the pressure off and normalize it, then you're not going to go so crazy in your head. And I think that level of being able to meet and greet and talk and support is just so goddamn sensible. You know, such a leveling thing for somebody, and while they're walking, they're breathing, they're gaining confidence, because, you know, we're kind of herd animals. We need to trust who's in our herd, right? And if you're going to get assholes, which, trust me, they're always going to be the assholes who have got these issues that they just polish over, and they will be, you know, it's all this pretense, isn't it? And I think that is the thing about, you know, in England, this whole stiff upper lip about, you know, fine, what, you know, we're just, you know, I've got so many of my friends are kind of, oh, it's fine, it's absolutely fine. And you know that it's not. And it just is that heart on sleevey thing, which I think, oh, we should get t-shirts printed, heart on sleeve.
Literally a heart on sleeve. But, you know, I think right
so
there,
good.
It's not just the stiff upper lip, it's that thing of that, if you're not happy, you're failing in some way. And, you know, it's that pressure we put on ourselves to be perfect or whatever, and that doesn't exist. And I think, and I think what I've had to do to make myself content is to accept that I'm not perfect, and I make mistakes, and I fuck up, and I have these things, but like everyone does, do you know what I mean? And I try and own them, and then I try and move on, right? And not make those mistakes.
But that's the biggest thing, the fact that you said you own it. We talked about that last week, owning it. You know, it might make you feel physically sick. It might make you feel, you know, like anything could happen right now. So I'm telling you this, right, in full honesty, full disclosure, this is it. And you just sort of are waiting for that response, which you have built up in your head. And 9 times out of 10, the response is, yeah, okay, I do that too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the key. You know? I think it's that thing of being able to sort of own the things that you find uncomfortable, you know, because once you can do that and sort of like, you're a lot more like, once you stop fighting against yourself and the things that make you, like OCD, you know, there have been times where if you'd said to me, I would have done anything to hand over OCD. It's at times been the most torturous thing, right? But I now recognize that it was a mental it was a way my brain, you know, tried to cope with life. It was like a faulty mechanism. Do you know what I mean? In my brain.
Yeah, it's like a filtering system that just was.
Yeah, a way of trying to make yourself feel safe that actually makes you feel the complete opposite, and that's okay. And that doesn't make me like a fuck up or a bad person. It just makes me a person. And we've all got these little things. And I think so now when I have those OCD thoughts, and you know, it's interesting, in the last couple of weeks, I've had a bit of a flare up of them. And I
was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Instead of like jumping into the thoughts and like trying to do what I usually do, which is like say, is this true? Is this true? Have I done this? Have I done that? Da, 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 da. I just sort of gone, oh, isn't that interesting? My OCD's here again.
Oh, we talked about this. Hello, my old friend.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm gonna take a deep breath and switch my phone off and go for a walk or something, you know? And like, oh, that's interesting because I'm stressed out. There's some stuff going on. There's stuff going on for everyone at the moment, you know? And there's been illness, and there's been, sadly, you know, loss, and all of our usual structures have been sort of stripped away. And so of course it's going to come up, you know?
But being in control of your own chemicals. So, you know, oxygen is an amazing chemical to have in our system, and the minute you exercise, you've got that flow of that sort of it's the breathing, and everybody knows that. And I'm not going to start talking about, you know, meditation or anything like that now, but you know, back in the day when depression, anxiety, all of those things existed, which again, since we came out of caves, they existed. Oh, woolly mammoth chasing me, you know, whatever we're running from, real or imagined, we're still being chased. You know, 30, 40 years ago, it would have been, here's a tablet. This will make it all go away. Darling, pat, pat, there you go. Have a gin with that. It'll be good. Whereas now, just to kind of the own it thing, the feel it thing, the recognize it for what it is thing, and when it raises its ugly head, whether or not it be a panic attack or a, you know, oh, here it comes, I know what this is, just to kind of like, right, okay, you know, either deal with it later or go for that walk or that run, which is why what you do with mental health mates and sharing it with communities and people taking responsibility for their communities and being able to sort of create something of their own. So the fact that you created that is just awesome, because I think, you know, there are so many, when you are in that feeling of gripped with fear, then, or not, or certainly in the process of recognizing it's on its way, then I think, you know, it's knowing where to go, what to do, what button to press. And a lot of people just press the button of, oh, just have a drink, because that'll just anesthetize it. And by the way, can I just say, not only do you look amazingly...
Very old picture. They had to find a picture because obviously we couldn't do another shoot because it was, you know, we were in lockdown. So
you look so beautiful in that. And I read it again last night, and I just, you know, that you put into words, because you have that capability, because you're a writer, you're a journalist, you're able to articulate incredibly well. You know, everybody's atoms of fear you were able to verbalize, and it just was incredible. And thank you for your books, for doing all of this to enable and to open up and make all this okay. You know, and especially right now with lockdown, you know, this is triggering that sort of fight or flight in so many people. So to have a go-to, you know, on social media, mental health mates, you know, podcasts, everything that you do on live, all this stuff that we're all trying to do, but you have a bigger voice because, you know, you've been doing this for a lot longer. It's incredible. Plus you have the credibility because you've been there, you felt it, you are still living and breathing it, because you will. And by the way, as a mother of a young child, you know, Edie is going to be placing those fears in you as well, because you're always, as a mother, going to be second guessing, you know, that bump in the road, is it a child, you know, because, you know, your brain, when you're a mum, your brain goes to such freaky ass places.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. And it's very interesting because obsessive compulsive disorder is something that really comes up in mums so it's one of those conditions that they can completely blindside people, because they may have had no history of it, and then you hear it a lot, maternal OCD, in you know, in parents of newborn children, but and so because your brain goes into kind of overdrive
completely, which is it's there for a reason. It's to protect your child.
Yeah, but it can go awry, and it can hurt, you know, it can become very distressing. So
I go to some very dark places sometimes when I think about my daughters now, and my youngest is 17, my eldest daughter is 27, and my son 25, and my son 27. I still think about, what if they got in that car at the A303 and then a juggernaut crashed into them. I kind of have got these visions in my head of what could happen to them, and it's just kind of like, oh my God, it's overwhelming. And then these are often those nighttime thoughts about all these awful things that could happen to my daughters or my son, or if she gets in a taxi back from a party, what if? You know, all these what ifs. And, you know, I just go and I literally get quite hot. I'm quite panicky. And obviously I feel my heart racing when I'm starting to almost visualize these crazy scenarios. And I just think, woman, what are you doing to yourself?
Well, okay, so the what ifs, you've just given me a thing. Instead of asking what if, ask yourself, what actually is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that, I'm actually going to write that down, because you've literally just inspired that in me. And that is going to be a chapter in my next book.
Yay. Oh, so much better. I thank you for that.
I've written it on a receipt.
What is?
This is the last time I stepped foot in a foreign country.
What are the chances of that happening? It's like, you know, my husband is a fantastic sort of calculator of stats and just says, look, the chances of this happening. So, you know, while I go through my crazy ask, you know, what ifs.
Well, what I've learned is that thing, well, you're worrying about this thing that might happen, but it also might not. So if it happens, then why don't you worry about it? But you can't control anything by worrying about it. You can't control the outcome of life by worrying. That's been like one of my hugest epiphanies in recent years. You cannot do that. It's going to happen. So let go, let God.
No, it's true. No, I absolutely know that. And and I will click myself out of it, and I'll give myself a virtual slap and just say,
no, but don't give yourself a slap. No.
Okay, I give myself a self-loving stroke.
It's a hug.
Okay, I give myself a hug, but it's more that if I could hold, because I would do this to a friend, I would hold their faces and I would look at them in the eyes and I would say, you know, darling heart, it's going to be okay. That is not going to happen. You are okay. And so that's what I will do to myself, as opposed to that sort of shaking myself out of it. Just go.
It's, you know, it might happen, but it's very unlikely, you know.
Yeah.
And to kind of like, has it happened yet?
Pigs flying. Well,
no, literally, if your son's been alive for 27 years, that's 27 times 365. Like, there's been way more days when that hasn't happened.
No, I know. I know. But as you say, the minute you're a mum, something changes in your in your, what's the maternal gland in your brain anyway?
I don't know.
But there's something that literally, I cannot think what it is now, the pituitary gland. It literally expands the minute you give birth. Plus also it does expand with husbands, with partners too. It does expand. So, and that never goes. So they found out, there was a scientific test with the pituitary gland in the female brain. As soon as they give birth, or as soon as they become pregnant, it doubles in size. And then it stays the same size till the day that mother dies.
Wow.
So that maternal instinct stays constant the whole way through. So that, that vigilant protection, that kind of mama bear, thing, which is, it's the good, the bad and the ugly of parenting, but I wouldn't change it for a bean. It'd be just the most important thing in the world. Anyway, we're digressing, but so are you, I know you've done a marathon, which
2
can
marathons.
you please, huh?
I've done 2 marathons.
Done 2 marathons. Can you make me do one with you? I did a half marathon. I did the London half about 10 years ago and loved it, even though it was pelting cats and dogs, like literally steroids rain. I would love to do a full marathon with you. I'm much older than you, so you might have to wheel me for half of it. But I would love to do that in bra and knickers.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I mean, I am due to do the London Marathon this year. Obviously, it was postponed to October. I don't think I'm going to do it in my bra and knickers. I think I'm going to do it in proper kit because I'm doing it for different reasons this year. But yeah,
You're doing it this year again.
Yeah.
Wow.
So hopefully I'll be number 3, but we'll see, because obviously it's so uncertain where we're going to be tomorrow, let alone in October when it's been postponed until. But yeah, I do love running.
You must be so. I mean, did you always love your running?
No, not at all. Like, I didn't love exercise at all. I'm at like a size 18. But I think the moment I started exercising for the gains and not the losses was the moment my kind of like, I switched with exercise. So the moment I stopped running to lose weight and stayed small, and and the moment I started running for like the clarity that it gave me in my head and the way it made me feel rather than the way it made me look, that's the game changer for me. And so I do run, I don't run fast, but I went for a run this morning. I went for a run yesterday morning. I like getting into the gear of distance running. Like I can run for a very long time. I just can't run very fast. So I can run for like 3 hours. Do you know what I mean? And I'm weirdly, I feel I get stronger the longer I'm running for. I hate the first like 40 minutes. I'm like,
oh, it's the same, but then something then changes, doesn't it? Then that feeling when you're almost floating, like you're being carried.
Yeah.
Do you listen to? I have to listen to music. Do you listen to music?
No, I don't. I run with a friend. So yeah, it's a really important part of my recovery and my being well. And I do it in the morning because then I start my day on a kind of positive note, and it just means I'm more likely to make better choices, I think, as the day goes on, as opposed to.
That's a really good way to start your day. I'm very impressed. I will endeavour to. I try and do mine at the end of the day, but the beginning of the day is so much better because it sets your brain, as you say.
Everyone's different, but I find if I don't do it in the morning, I don't do it at all. So, so I can't.
Now, Bryony, I ask all my guests to finish with a quote. I'm afraid we have to finish because I know what you and I like once we get gabbling. So have you thought of a quote that you think is relevant?
Yes. So this is a quote that I heard just before I set up Mental Health Mates, and it really chimed with me, and I heard it on Desert Island Discs, and it was a Desert Island Discs with Justin Welby, who is the Archbishop of Canterbury. And very tragically, one of his children died in a car crash actually, when they were very little. And he was talking about his faith and how they got through that. And he said this quote, which really chimed with me at the time, which was, "Attack the day, don't let it attack you." that is how I try and live my life every day. I try and go with the day. Attack is probably like a, but I try and go with the day rather than letting the day. Do you know what I mean? Like
no, well, it's seize, attack, just, you know, embrace it full on. You know,
I need to be, because if I don't do that, if I let my brain take control and my way of doing take control, I'm going to end up in a crack den. Like, and that's not even a joke. Like, that's just the truth. Like, I'm nearly 3 years sober, and do you know what I mean?
I know.
So I have to be proactive, and I have to do the things I don't want to do, and my life is much richer and better for it. So yeah,
I can tell, and you know, because, you know, every day for everybody is an opportunity to be just that little bit stronger, that little bit better, and just, you know, but level is fine as well. But I love that, you know, that striking that chord of that. It's not even a discipline, it just is a mantra, isn't it? And I think, you know, for me it's tits and teeth, you know, because I feel that you know, there's a lot of stuff that I have to do that I don't want to do. You know, I'm actually quite shy as a person, so I don't, you know, I really am. So I struggle. I always enjoy reaching out and communicating with people, but it's not natural for me. So it's kind of like, come on, tits and teeth, because you know you'll love it in the end. Or fur coat, no knickers, whatever it is. But just as that sort of whatever you need to wear to be proud of yourself at the end of the day. So when you have done your day and you snuggle up in bed and you just go, yeah, that was a good job, well done, kid, you did all right.
Yeah. And if attacking the day is, today I'm gonna get up, have a shower, and then I'm going to get back into bed because I'm feeling dreadful, I'm feeling really sad. If attacking the day is, and then I'm going to call a friend and I'm going to cry down the phone to them on the phone, that's what attacking the day can be. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go for a run, I'm going to take on the world. It's like, for me, it's waking up and going, what do I need to do today to be the most helpful person I can be to myself and to yourself, me?
100%.
And sometimes that might be, today I need to switch off my phone and stay in bed and watch Netflix. And some days that might be, today I need to get up and I need to go for a run and I need to do Zoom calls all day and be really proactive. It changes from day to day. So it's like, check in with yourself. What does it?
Yeah, well, that bit that we said the other day, which is about just being gentle with yourself and just say, okay, so that's not my day today, and maybe another day will come. It will be different tomorrow. This will be different. Every day is different. You feel different every day. So it's just, you know, just going with it and going, so what? Who's looking? Right? Listen, my darling, thank you for your time. It's a pleasure to have you in our wild space. Honestly, a treasured guest.
And thank you so much for I got some lovely Romilly Wilde goodies at the weekend, and I have been wearing the Idol perfume. It's absolutely lush. And I can imagine I'm in the countryside and not
imagine you're in the countryside for sure.
And remember, everyone, on the back of my Hudson Booksellers receipt, not what if, what is.
What is, yeah. Well done. Thank you. Well, I'm glad I inspired something in you, which was amazing. So,
you inspire me all the time. Thank you, Susie.
Oh, I'll speak to you again soon. Take care. Love to everyone. Bye, my love. Thank you.